Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I hope you enjoyed that new intro music that we think we'll be using from here on out. Um, Gets me fired up. I know, well, we didn't hear it just now, but you all did, and we've all heard it before. So, um, welcome back. I'm Aidan,
I'm Jack.
and we are very excited to be back with you. This off season, I think it feels longer now that we're doing this. Like, we talk twice a week during the year, and now the off season, there's just not a lot going on in professional lacrosse, at least. I know there's some fall ball games, but I miss it, man.
Yeah, it's really weird to be honest. It was yeah, we had the podcast twice a week, but we were in contact daily or
Yeah.
talking, reading lacrosse every single day during the summer. And it is a niche sport, so the NFL, the off season can feel long, but ESPN and NFL, they're pumping out off season content all the time. So, as a Pats fan, you might not be watching the Pats for a long stretch of time, but you're still they feel very top of mind.
Yeah.
But because there's just not a lot out there with the PLL, it's weird. It feels like the cannons just like drift back and you're like, oh wait, like lacrosse is still a thing. Like the cannons are still here. The PLL,
Yeah.
like it feels like the off season it just gets buried.
Absolutely. And I think especially because I don't think we necessarily told the viewers this, but like those episodes with Chris Eck and Jordan Burke that we put out 2 weeks apart, like we did not record those 2 weeks apart. We recorded those within a week of each other. So, we talked, those are both in late September. So that was like a month ago for us now. Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, huge thank you to those guys. We're glad we made it work with our schedule, but it was an extra long break now.
Yeah.
Where I think where did I see you? Or I saw you on the subway randomly in Boston, but I think there was a time before that where we like, oh, we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
It was on
Yeah.
the supporter group like Zoom call, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just running into each other on the T on our way to the head of the Charles. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
that
how
was
you
a good
doing,
one.
man?
Yeah.
Oh.
Good social event. If any of you have gone. I mean, I hope any diehard rowing fans, I'm sure, are already there, but it's good just
Or
to hang.
just anyone in the city. Like it's
Yeah.
just like truth be told, I think I saw three boats go by. Like I was barely looking at the water. I was just sitting with my friends and just
Yeah.
enjoying that it was such a beautiful
Oh my
Saturday.
God. Perfect.
And like they had the radio broadcast of the race too, like right
Yeah.
near us, but they clearly weren't watching from the same place that we were watching, which just like when I did try to watch the race, it made it very hard to watch the race because I'm like, that's definitely not the boat they're talking about. Or like
Yeah.
they're talking about a boat coming through. I'm like, there's no boats right now. So like you just like kind of end up tuning it out and just
Yeah.
enjoying the vibes.
Yeah. And
But
the vibes were incredible.
they
Beautiful.
were.
Um, and I think
Anyways,
we gotta say, just when this is dropping, happy Halloween to everyone.
spooktacular.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you're all if you have kids or whatever, going out and trick-or-treating or giving out candy. I know that's fun as we get into our into adulthood here. Um, yeah, I'm a pretty big
Any
Halloween
f-
fan. How about
any
you?
fans going dressed as Marcus Holman or any other players? Would
Yeah,
love
I
to see
hope.
that.
I think the PLL has been doing like 31% off merch. I think that ended either on the 30th or on Halloween.
Mm,
So
yeah.
if you're listening to this the day it comes out, you may still have a chance to get a discount on some gear.
And if you're listening to this and you or anyone you know is going as a Cannons player for Halloween, please send us that picture. We really want to see it.
Yeah, oh my God, please. If you are dressed as Cannons player, honestly, I'll take a lacrosse player of any kind. Yeah, please like let us know, tag us in that, tag the PLL in that. They would absolutely love that. God, especially if you're Paul Rabel when he had those flowing
Oh,
locks.
the flow.
I
The
don't have a
flow
Rabel
bucket.
jersey, but yeah, I might have to do a Paul Rabel costume at some point. Um,
Everybody.
yeah. All right.
Um,
So why don't we get into the main topic we'd planned for today? which
Yeah.
is we are going to draft a lacrosse team, not a full roster, but just, the starters at every position, um, with current athletes from other Boston teams. And we're going to allow some overlap just so we don't spend, we don't agonize over it. We'll go group by group. Um,
Mhm.
and we'll see. So it's current athletes only. So no, you will not see Tom Brady on this list. Um, but honestly, like I know Belichick said he played goalie because he can't run. Like Brady is not. I don't know that he had the athleticism to cut it anywhere else in the field. Uh,
True.
yeah. All right. So why don't we? You want to start with the offense or the or defense goalie? You want which side of the field do you want to start on?
I wrote mine from goalie to attack. So if you want to go in that order, I
Yeah,
think because
absolutely.
it's
Um,
pretty obvious on the
yeah,
start. I guarantee that we are going to say the same thing on goalie. I went with Jeremy Swayman.
yeah,
I mean, like, see, he's the only other goalie, like actual goalie, and he's pretty freaking good.
yeah.
So I obviously want him as my goalie.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know that if we had I wonder if we had done this regular draft style, would you have taken him first overall, or would you have gone offense? Because he's like again, he's the only guy you can say really. I mean, he is far and away the best option.
Well, that's a good question because when we were debating this, we were talked about would we do position by position for the draft. So like if we were drafting like okay, you have to draft an attackman right now, like that kind of nixes it. You know, when you get to the goalie portion, obviously if you have first pick, you're gonna take him.
Yeah,
If we're just like going straight off the board, pick any player to fill in, honestly, yeah, I probably would have taken him number one overall because like Eunice Corpusalo
Hmm.
sucks. And I don't know who like no one else immediately comes to mind
Yeah,
for like you can make an argument for a lot of other positions to like fit different people in, but he's just such a natural fit that it's like it's a boring pick, but it's like he's the consensus number one for a reason, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah. I want to give some justice to Jonas Corposalo. I was actually at the Bruins game on the 29th, and the Bruins looked awful, but it was not Corposalo's fault. I would say they did not lose that game because of him. They,
no,
um,
he did play well against Philly that but
yeah,
so this is a Cannons
I know.
podcast. We don't need to get into the rough start that the Bruins are off to.
No, that we don't have that kind of time.
Uh,
So yeah, I mean, I'll pick Swayman too. Just because we're allowing ourselves to double up.
yep.
The other couple things I was thinking of for this was Connor Wong. Playing catcher. He's pretty quick. He's pretty athletic.
Okay.
Um, and then I went kind of completely opposite direction. No slander meant, but I think Al Horford maybe. He's got the size, elite blocker. He might struggle with some low shots. I think that would be the scout against him.
Hmm.
I'm tempted to pick one of them just to shake things up, but yeah, you got to go Swayman.
Okay. I really like that Connor Wong pick. That hadn't occurred to me because I just went straight to Swayman. But had you taken Swayman, Connor Wong would be a good
Yeah.
second pick.
You know what? Maybe I will just officially put that down just so when we post these, the rosters or people can have a little more interesting conversation about it. I'm going with Connor Wong as my goalie.
Okay.
All right. I certainly used to getting in front of getting blocking shots, as it were.
True.
Um, lacrosse ball actually softer than a baseball.
True.
Yeah. All right, let's go up. I'll say my defense first since you
Sure.
first
Yeah.
goalie. All right. I think no surprise here. Charlie McAvoy. Um, you want me to name all three or go one by one?
Yeah. Just name all three. I think it's
Sure.
easier.
So I wanted to go a couple, a couple sports here. So Charlie McAvoy, I'll go Kyle Duggar, safety for the Patriots.
Hmm.
And then I'm a little bit between and I feel like I got to do it because of the crossover. Nikita Zadorov.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So little little bit of similarity, a little bit of difference. I will say that I also first one I put down was Nikita Zadorov.
Hmm.
But then I went Christian Gonzalez and Tristan Casas. And so,
Interesting. Casas on
yeah.
D.
So that's kind of what for me, like I like that big, intimidating defense. And
Yeah.
so that's, Z Zadorov, huge dude. Obviously he puts fear in opponents. He gives me Garrett Epple vibes just because he's big and thick and has a penchant for getting penalties. Um,
Yeah.
so I liked that move, and that was so Costas was kind of the similar thing. He's flexible. He's a big body, so I think and yeah, he can sure swing a bat, so I'm sure he could figure out how to use a lawn pole on
Oh
defense.
yeah.
And then Christian Gonzalez lockdown corner. I feel like you just stick him on Jeff T or whoever the number one attackman is on whatever team you're playing, and you could almost just like face guard and turn it into a 5-on-5 set on every possession because he would just completely erase whoever he's marking from the game.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk, but yeah, I have Christian Gonzalez on my roster as well because I think he was as you know, anyone who's tuned into the Patriots, he's about the only bright spot for them right now.
Rick May.
Yeah, no, yeah, Drake May absolutely turning out, I would say exceeding expectations at this point. But at least going into the year, you were like, we know Christian
Oh,
Gonzalez
yeah, yeah, yeah.
corner.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
You got any
let's.
more any more insight into your picks though?
I mean, I think kind of same reasoning. Charlie McAvoy is top 10, maybe top five defenseman in the NHL for sure. Like good, yeah, good puck handler, good leader. Not the biggest body. I think he's only like 6 feet 6'1".
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, super solid, positionally solid. Like he does everything you want.
Hmm.
Duggar, I think the same, similar to Gonzalez. As a safety, he's a little bit more. He's like an off ball guy. So I think I don't know if officially he's like the captain or signal caller or whatever for the defense, but I think he'd be a little bit more of a Glazner type, like
Okay.
organizing. And he's also makes a ton of tackles. So if he slid to you, you would be feeling it.
Yeah,
Um,
fair.
Zadora, I mean, yeah, the dude's like 6'6" and Russian and 250 pounds or something like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, difficult
Scary.
to get around, we'll say.
Yes.
All right, let's take it little step up the field. Who you got for your LSM?
That is where I put McAvoy. I put
Okay.
him as my LSM, because he doesn't have the point production that you would like for someone to win a Norris Trophy, but I think he definitely is obviously a very offensive minded defenseman running point on the power play. So I think that just is sort of a natural fit that LSM is defense, but like it's midfield. You can push in transition, kind of Ethan Rawl going up there. Like that's where I sort of see McAvoy as being the guy who leads the breakout and pushes up the field, which is why I put him at LSM instead of close
Hmm.
D.
He would also be a beast on ground balls.
Oh,
Face-off wing,
absolutely.
oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. What do
Um,
you got?
yeah, so mine, this is where we switch it. I have Christian Gonzalez here.
Okay.
I had him at short stick initially, and then I'm like, wait, no, he is such a turn. Like, I think he has a couple picks already. Such a
Hmm.
turnover artist. I think we would see both cause turnovers and then those clean interception type turnovers.
Okay.
And he's also so fast that like to see like I'm just imagining him screaming down the field uh with a long pole. And I was like, is it too late for him to play lacrosse? Like I know he will make a lot more money in the NFL, but can you talk to Jared Bernhardt or something? Um, yeah,
Never say never.
yeah. I mean, he's such an elite athlete that I
Yeah.
feel like LSM is the place he could exploit that ability the most.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
what do you got for Shorty though?
Shorty, this was like the first guy that came to me when I was thinking of when we were working on this. So for
Hmm.
my first short stick, I want Jaron Duran.
Okay.
Yeah, elite athlete again, super strong, super fast. Like like a 5-on-4 with Christian Gonzalez and Jaron Duran. Like
Mm.
it's a 5-on-3 very quickly.
True.
No one can cover or no one can keep up with them.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, it'd be super hard for him to get beat. I also feel like he probably talks a lot of trash, which I think is important for
A D mid.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then for my other one, I was debating a couple. I think I'm gonna go with Drew Holiday. Uh,
Okay.
kind of for the same reasons. I mean, I don't think he's as fast as Jaren Duran because most people aren't, but
Hmm.
he's also an elite defender at his sport. I think there is a lot of crossover between basketball and lacrosse as far as like
Hmm.
positioning, especially for like dodging one on one and then defending one on one.
Right.
Where if you let him be more physical explicitly and like gave him that stick, I think he would be a fantastic asset. Um, and he's also really good at pushing in transition.
Hmm.
Um, you see him shoot, you see him assist. Like I think he would be as good of a season as Jeff Trainer had. I feel like that's the type of player he would be.
Absolutely. I actually for my first D mid I had the same thing. I put Drew Holiday down there. Same reasoning, really,
Yeah.
just such a good, scrappy defender. Um, Definitely that just seems like such a natural fit in my mind. The my other D mid though, I think is one that is gonna catch you off guard.
Okay.
And I actually so that's I put Brad Marchand as
I,
my
you know, I
D mid.
I see it now that you say it. Like, yeah, it makes a
Like
lot of sense.
at first, like it felt so weird because oh, he's a forward. He's not going to be a D mid, but he's just a friggin' pest. That
Yeah.
little ball of hate. Like he would just irritate the
Yeah.
shit out of
He would be Matt
whoever he's
Palin's favorite
playing.
player.
Exactly. Exactly. And like you brought up Jeff Trainer. I mean, Jeff really ended up being a two-way midi this year, playing a lot of offense, scoring some points. And so I see Brad sort of in that mold that he's officially listed as a D mid, but his stick skills are just so good that he can just push it up in transition and stay out there with the offense, hopefully trap the other team's D, one of their O mids, trap them on defense and just get a mismatch in that way. So I think putting him as your D mid is a sneaky good move.
Yeah, I see it. I still feel really good about my picks. I mean, obviously one of them was the same, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
and sit and likewise to you. When you said Jaren Duran, I was like, ooh, I like that move at D mid. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch to somewhat of the offensive side of the field, or well, no, let's switch to the exact middle of the field. Who you got for your Fogo?
My Fogo, I went with Charlie Coyle. Um,
Okay, yeah,
So, like for me, this was the last one that I picked. I was really struggling to decide on who would be my face off. And really what it came down to for me is that I felt like I had to go hockey here and especially go with a center just for the sheer fact of they are used to facing off. It just
yeah,
makes too much sense. And Bergeron and Krejci retired, so we don't have that all-time great face-off man option anymore. And so I was looking like Zaka, you have Lindholm now. Freddie takes a lot of face-offs. I was looking at stats. Geeky actually has the highest win percentage. But then I realized it was because he hasn't taken too many. But um ultimately kind of why I went with Coyle is he's a solid face-off face-off guy, little over 50%. And he's also just such a good athlete, good size too, like 6'3", 215.
yeah,
So I think that he is sort of the perfect example of maybe not quite Zach Tucci, but sort of that idea that you just have an absolute athlete at face off so that if he wins it clean, he can go up and play offense. But he also, like Charlie Coyle, could be a D mid. I think he has the talent to be a D mid. So if you do lose the face off, you're not worried about him being stuck out there on defense when the other team has possession. So just made sense. Also, he's a local kid, so like
Yeah.
I liked giving him some kudos there.
Yeah, I gotta think he played Weymouth Youth Lacrosse at some point. Like, there's no way. There's so much overlap between those two sports.
Yeah, he had to have.
Yeah. I would love, it's a bummer that like the Bruins and Cannons are never in off season at the same time. Like whenever unless the Bruins don't make the playoffs, which will knock on wood, and um
Hmm.
and by the time the Bruins are done, the Cannons will start it up again because I would love to get to talk to him about any lacrosse experience he has.
Sure.
Um yeah, we'll see. Um no promises, but we'll try to get in touch. All right. So for mine, I liked a lot of the reasoning of like an absolute like elite athlete on there who is going to compete and like be a little bit
Hmm.
insane. Uh,
Hmm.
so my Fogo, I took Brendan Schooler.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Little off the wall, but I get it.
Yeah. I was thinking about like hockey, obviously, like you said. But yeah, since like no Bergeron, no Krejci, honestly, I think John Beecher, uh, also
Mm,
is really good at faceoffs.
yep.
Like none of the Bruins centers are really that like elite presence that you need in the PLL. Like
Hmm.
all the Fogos in the PLL are like the top. Like it's like if you took the top eight centers in the National Hockey League, like their percentages are going to be insane.
Right.
Um, so I figured I would go with someone who is a freak athlete, is like psychopathically competitive, um, and also just like has that desire to like prove himself and just tell you he beat you every single time,
Mm,
which
hmm.
can bite you, obviously, when you don't win. But I feel like that energy is kind of what you need to be a little bit insane, a little bit locked in on your own thing,
Yeah.
uh, and just want to take that responsibility on you one on one to win.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
I dig it. I dig
Yeah.
it.
Okay, so now we're going O-mids. Um,
Yes. What do you got for me?
so first pick, no surprise, I think I'm going with Jason Tatum.
Hmm.
I think obvious he might be the best athlete in Boston right now. Just incredible, like the size, the speed, the skill, the shiftiness, the loud motorcycle outside my apartment. Yeah, he can do everything, and obviously he's an elite scorer as well, and an elite passer.
Hmm.
Rebounds aren't as much of a thing in lacrosse, but he's good at those too. So yeah, he can do everything. Two, there's a couple people I'm going between, but I think just to for a little bit of novelty, I'm going to go with Trevor Story. Um, because we also see elite arm over there at shortstop, elite footwork as well. Um, and offensive pop in baseball does not necessarily directly correlate to lacrosse. But he's also a really good athlete. Obviously not as big as Tatum, but still like absolutely can beat you.
6'2", 210, I think. He's
Yeah.
strong, good-sized man.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's also very strong. So I feel like he's got a lot of skills that would correlate very well, especially as a shortstop, you're kind of the captain of the infield there.
Hmm.
He'd be a really good like field general up there, kind of
Yeah.
Freiburg-esque vibes. Um, and then for my third, I'm going with Matt Patra because
Okay.
his brother plays in the PLL. I'm sure they played
Mm,
a little lacrosse together. Not that we're
that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, not that we're drafting necessarily on how good we think they'd be if they had to play a lacrosse game tomorrow. Um, but at what I think he's 19 or 20 now. Um,
Yeah.
he's you know, playing in the National Hockey League, scoring goals, getting assists. Um, and again, those skills translate so well between lacrosse and hockey.
Yeah. Nice. So we have two of the three same.
Interesting.
Um, First off, I also put Trevor Story on there, and you took the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking Tom Schreiber. He is Tom Schreiber. Like they just give off the same vibe of that field general leader,
Yeah.
injury prone. Um,
Especially shoulder.
they kind of look alike low
Yeah,
key. Yeah, so I had the exact same thought there that he just gave off Schreiber vibes. So I put him there. I also put Tatum at midfield.
you
He's
gotta.
the best athlete in Boston right now. So I was like, well, I have to find a spot for Tatum
Yeah.
somewhere on this list. Like and just midfield just makes sense. Basketball, you play offense and defense, go back and forth. I know technically these are O mids, um, but
I trust Tatum on
but
defense too.
like I trust Tatum on defense, and you think of Tatum more for his offensive prowess than his defensive prowess. So like O mid makes sense.
Yeah.
And then for pretty much the exact same reason that I picked Tatum, my last midfielder is Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
That again, second best athlete in Boston. It felt wrong not to include him, and don't want to give away any spoilers for my attack, but at least that I do not have any Celtics players at attack. And
Okay.
so without Tatum and Brown, like at that point, like I midfield is one of the last positions I did. And so I was looking at my list and I realized that the only Celtic I had on there was Drew Holiday. And I was like, I really need to get Tatum and Brown on
Yeah.
here because it would be wrong to leave him off. So I was like, you know what? Midfield sounds about right for both of them.
Yeah. I'm a little worried now that I didn't put Jalen Brown. Like if he ever hears this, I'm probably bulletin board material for him now. Like you picked Tatum and not me. No,
True.
it's not. I just wanted guys from as many different teams as possible.
All right. What do you got for attack, baby?
Yeah.
Bring us home.
So I think no surprise, got to take David Pastrnak first. Like
Hmm.
I assume I'm not gonna, but not spoil it. But yeah, he's got to be top five goal scorer in the NHL. He's just the most natural. I think he'd be like yeah, he'd be a little Holman in that he's a shooter, but I think he dodges more. Like he's got the stick handling. He's a pretty good passer too. He's got a great vision. And just
Yep.
overall field awareness. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who I'd compare him to. Um, I mean,
I
maybe a
think
little.
Holman works.
Yeah. Well, just Holman doesn't dodge that much, but yeah. Anyway,
Well, but I'll just but in here I would say I do also have Pasternak, and I explicitly wrote that he's my righty attackman because if you think of him on the power play, he
yeah,
just parks his ass on the dot and just fires away from the right side. Like I could see him doing the exact same thing on a lacrosse field, setting up at 5-5 on the right side, just like Coleman does, and just catch and rip,
yeah,
just over and over and over. That's exactly what like yeah, Pastrnak does have great stick skills and he can skate in and put on a slick move. But the first thing that comes to my mind when I think Pastrnak is that one time around the power play and
yeah,
just smacking it. So I feel like that's just so natural. But
yeah,
go give me your other two.
yeah. So I got a couple options. I got three options that I want. Um, well, we can discuss maybe the fourth after this. So
Okay.
two, I've taken Peyton Pritchard. Um,
Okay.
I think, he's got that sour shiftiness. He's undersized for
Mm.
the NBA, but obviously he's not actually short. So, I think he'd still be he'd be a good presence out there. Like he's not as easy to push around as Sowers, but just as
Hmm.
quick,
Yep.
just as shifty. Probably doesn't have 2-point range in the PLL just because I don't know how hard he would shoot. Um, but the accuracy would be there. Like, he could if he couldn't shoot from 15, I think he could absolutely hit a pass on a dime from like 40 yards, where
Hmm.
like, he could be standing in the corner on a restart and just find the guy streaking in from the top of the box, like coming on.
Yeah.
Whether that's to Tatum, to Story, whoever it is, like that would I can see that in my head and it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, And then, so I guess he'd probably play X. And then I'm between two guys here. I'll just say the one that I think I'll go with
Peyton would
just
play
for,
X.
huh?
You said Peyton is X.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Similar to Sowers.
Yeah.
And then, I know Asher plays X, but I think, this is maybe more similar to Matt Rambo, is I'm going to take
Hmm.
Andre Stevenson as my last attackman.
Okay.
Um, Again, big body like Rambo, where if he wants to get to a spot, you are not stopping him. I don't know if he's left-handed, but if he hasn't picked up a lacrosse stick yet, we could just teach him to be. Um, and yeah, I mean, you can't stop him like when he decides where he wants to go. Um, Super strong. Obviously, plays offense. Don't really have to shoot in football, but I think he would just be a dominant physical presence out there, like we've seen with Asher, like we've seen with
Hmm.
Rambo, Zed Williams,
Yeah.
uh, O'Neal in a different way. I mean, not as physical,
Hmm.
but still, he's great at dodging through people.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Those are some interesting picks. I will say I did not go in that direction, but I like your reasoning behind those.
Yeah, and I just want to say the other guy I was thinking of was Marcus Jones, also on the Patriots. Who's like I forget if he's a
Okay.
corner or safety, but then also does kick and punt returns and is just incredibly fast and quick. But I figure, I got Pritchard, so let me go with the big body instead.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I can get down with that. Um, so for me, yeah, already mentioned Pasta's on the right side. This one felt obvious for me. I actually picked this before I even picked Pasta.
Wow.
My ex-attackman is Drake May.
Interesting.
It's the quarterback.
Yeah.
He's in charge. Put him behind X. He's got that field vision. He can see everything. He can direct everything. He's got some movement. He can move in the pocket. He can break it down and run just like he can attack from X and hit the cage, dish it off and feed it up top. I feel like that just like made so much sense to me. So that one I had. Then I picked Pasta as my righty attackman. So then I was looking and I said, oh, lefty attack. All right. I want to specifically pick a lefty. I want them to be offensive minded. I'm trying to think, all right, who's a offensive lefty that sticks out in my head? My mind goes to baseball when I and
Oh, yeah.
immediately trying to think of a lefty because obviously it's just so obvious the handedness in baseball. And so that is where I put Jaron Duran as
Oh,
my lefty attack. I think he's big, strong guy. He's got an arm. As you mentioned, he's got that speed. I really liked your move with putting him at D mid because he can really show off that speed. But I think even just sitting down and attack, he could really bust a move and dodge really well. So I really like him setting up the left side at attack. So, Brian Holman, um, if well, I guess baseball kind of overlaps,
yeah. If you
but
can convince Jaron Duran to take a massive pay
a
cut,
pay cut. I mean, hey, like Jaron Duran got suspended for 2 games.
yeah,
So like if like he finds himself out of a job
yeah,
for some reason, like
yeah,
maybe we cut him some slack and
that would
bring
be,
him
that'd be
here.
something.
Although, I mean, you know what? Like playing 162 games is a lot. So like maybe he could just take like one day off a week
Yeah,
and play for the Cannons on Saturdays. Deion Sanders played football and baseball
very
at the
true.
same time. Like
Bo
Jaron Duran,
Jackson.
if you're able to play 162 baseball games, I know he did 160 this year, but clearly his body was able to withstand playing every single day. I think that we could find a way to make it work that he could play baseball
For
and
sure.
lacrosse at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
Physically, he can
Yeah.
do it.
100%. Yeah. That dude loves the weight room. Um, it's funny when you said like baseball and then lefty, I immediately assumed you were going Rafi Devers. uh,
You
who
see, because I was thinking, yeah, you know
he
what?
throws right-handed, but I think that's
He
just because
throws right-handed,
like,
and that's a good. I was only thinking really of actually throwing a baseball, but now that I think more about it, swinging a bat is more like uh using a lacrosse stick, so it might have made more sense to lean towards well, I guess it depends
no,
on the angling because the hands are together, throw up. Yeah. So yeah, regardless, Jaron Duran throws and bats lefty,
yeah,
so he's super lefty. Rafi like is more
we're not sure.
wishy-washy.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that thing, like, yeah, Rafi just he's not a good enough athlete to be
yeah,
on the
he's playing
field.
the right
Like
sport.
it feels weird. It does. He is. If now that like he didn't even come to mind when I made this list. Now that you mention, I'm like, wow, I left Rafael Devers off, but like he just
Yeah. I'm glad
he
one of us
doesn't fit.
said, I'm glad one of us said our team's starting quarter or our city's starting quarterback because it would be insane to do a list of like the guys you want to see playing your sport and not have like probably the most famous one.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you gotta. So thank you for that because honestly, he never crossed my mind for this. I think I actually made this list a while ago, maybe even before he started starting.
Okay.
Um,
So like,
but um, yeah. Uh, okay, so maybe we'll just run through the names real quick just as a summary. So I'll have Connor Wong in net. My defense, Charlie McAvoy, Kyle Duggar, Nikita Zadorov. LSM, Christian Gonzalez. Short stick D mids, Jaron Duran, Drew Holiday. Fogo, Brendan Schooler. O mids, Jason Tatum, Trevor Story, and Matt Patra. And then attack, David Pasternak, Peyton Pritchard, and Ramondre Stevenson.
yep. And for me, I got Jeremy Swayman in net. My defense is Nikita Zadorov, Christian Gonzalez, Tristan Casas, LSM, Charlie McAvoy. My shorty, D mids, Drew Holiday and Brad Marchand. At midfield, O-mid specifically is where I put Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Trevor Story. My Fogo, Charlie Coyle. And then at attack, we got Drake May at X, Pasternak at righty, and Jaron Duran, the lefty.
Yeah. Also, want to say before we move off of this is I tried so hard to find a place for Kristaps Porzingis, but
Oh,
sort of how Jaron Duran or not Jaron, Rafael Devers is like playing the right sport because where else could he succeed?
yeah,
Porzingis, like I don't know, at like 7'3" and that
right.
thin, like I thought like maybe he could play goalie just because he'd be so big, but
But I
I
don't
don't. I
think he
think
can get
he
low
couldn't stop
enough.
anything low. I don't think he could play defense because I think a tackman would be able to slide under him. Yeah, O mid maybe. Uh,
Yeah,
but I mean, he's in the right field for sure.
he
Was
is.
yeah. Was there anyone else where you're like, I really want to find him a place for him on this, but I'm just not sure.
No, like there's no one that I felt really that I needed to find a place. It was more just when I was looking at my spread of players. Like I said, I put Tatum and Brown on there because I felt like you have to put them
Yeah,
on there. And the Celtics really are the only good team in Boston right now.
unfortunately.
And the fact that I had only three Celtics players out of my 14, it felt a little weird. I was like, because like they're just stacked. Like you talked about Al Horford and just now Kristaps Porzingis, but also Derek White and like you threw Peyton Pritchard on there, and hell, Sam Hauser
Yeah,
could probably be a 2-point bomb in lacrosse. But it was just this thing of like, even though they have the most guys that I feel like would be worthy of a spot, or just like, oh, these are the best players in Boston. It's the best team in Boston, and these are the star players on that team. Let me put them on my team. When I thought about, well, I want to spread it around. Like I have to have at least someone from all four teams. And then you think about truly how do different guys fit into spots. Like basketball is just tough to
Yeah,
like
it's the smallest
match up with
roster by far.
specific positions. That too. That
Yeah.
too. Like there's just so many more options with other sports, and like goalie and face off made so much sense to me to have a hockey player. And
Yeah.
like so
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
we didn't talk about this in advance, but who would you want coaching of the four Boston head coaches?
Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah, and me too.
Next question.
I think,
I I was
yeah,
talking to my buddy the other day, and I think it was, did you see that thing? I think it was on Friday that the Bruins were supposed to have practice at 11:30. At 11:35, the coaches finally came out on the ice with no players in sight. And I never heard anything else about that. I don't know what was going on. They're just running late, whatever. But they had just lost. Had they just lost Thursday night? Yeah. I forget the
I think to
whatever it
Dallas.
was. Yeah, they lost to Dallas, and then the next morning, like, show up late to practice, whatever. And I was like this team is a mess. Like, I thought they were gonna be solid, but they're a mess. Obviously, the Sox and the Pats are what they are, and then the Celtics are what they are in a positive way. And my buddy literally texted me, he goes, "Can Joe Mazzulla just coach all of the teams? I'm sure he'd love that." And
Yeah.
honestly, I think he would love that.
Yeah,
Like, he would have the time of his life.
absolutely. Yeah, that dude is so like as psychopathically competitive as we talk about. As I think every elite athlete is and has to be. Like
Yeah,
Mazzulla is
at
truly
that
another
level,
level.
yeah.
Yeah. Where
Oh,
like as good as the Celtics players are, I think you got to credit a lot of their success to him. Um, and
he
not to
knows
take
how to
anything
push
away
the
from the
buttons.
players, but
No, he just it's the culture. It's just
yeah,
who he is. Like he gives off Brian Holman vibes too. Not like in the not in his personality, in like how in terms of like when people say like Joe Mazzulla is a crazy person, but I think in his philosophy of,
hmm.
and not the philosophy of like where he's like there's no such thing as a foul, you either win or you die or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It
Oh, that
was
was
more just
Tierney.
yeah.
Or
No,
oh,
well yeah, that's
yeah,
the
Tierney
Tierney
had
vibe.
a
No, that
similar
was
story.
Joe Mazzulla said that.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
Oh, no, Tierney said something along the lines of like
Losing is
he'd
worse than death
rather
because you have to live with
losing
it.
is worse than death because you have to live with it.
Yeah.
Joe Mazzulla said there's no such thing as a foul, like, and then it's either something or you die. Like that was his quote. Um, are you pulling it up right now?
I'm trying. Yeah. There's
Let
no
me let me see if I can find a Joe Mazzulla
he
no
wants power plays?
such
No, that can't be right. Oh, he
thing.
wanted to bring fighting back. I saw that quote
Uh,
this morning.
that was I heard that live. That was such a it's here it is. There's no such thing as a foul. You either die or you don't.
I mean,
Like he's not wrong, but like
yeah,
that's psychopath.
yeah, that
But
is and
the
basketball
when
is certainly the least violent of any of the four major baseball. No, you throw a baseball at someone, you can kill them.
oh
Um,
yeah, no, basketball is definitely not the least violent because he talked about it in his quote today. Like I listened to him on Zolak and Bertrand yesterday live when he ran down that, and basically the do you know the whole story behind that
no.
quote? So basically they're talking about rule changes in the NBA, coming up with suggestions, what if they took away the corner three? Like, and basically the direction that he took it in, it was that we should bring back fighting, and that like the NBA should allow you to fight, that it's so entertaining, like in hockey when the guys drop the gloves, and it
Yeah,
like it and also like earlier in their conversation they were talking about the comeback. That did you watch that on
I did.
Netflix?
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah,
So good. But like they're also talking about how good that was, and then like how awesome like the brawls were, and Pedro throwing Don Zimmer to the ground. Um, but he's saying like you want to talk about entertainment, like like what's more entertaining than a scrum on the court? Like when guys empty the benches and start pushing and shoving each other, like that's entertainment.
Yeah.
And he also loves jujitsu. So like eventually what he ended up talking about was that he just out of nowhere just blurted out like, what if we all had challenge coins? Like you could eat at each person, you had 5 challenge coins a year, and you could just everyone had them, and you could just walk down the street and give a challenge coin to someone, and if they accepted it, you could just like challenge them to combat.
So he's not necessarily talking about the NBA, he's just talking about life.
Yeah. Well, it
Okay.
started off with the NBA. It started off like, yeah, let's allow fighting. And then it turned into like, let's have challenge coins so you can challenge someone to a combat in the street.
It would certainly it would change more than just the NBA, that is for sure.
Yeah.
It would yeah, it would be a big
But
reform movement. Okay, so we
but
can agree.
anyways,
Yeah, we
that
want Joe
was
Mazzulla coaching our fictional lacrosse team.
yes. But back to my original point. I just want to make this before we've rambled on for so long. I
Yeah.
just need to like say this part because this is why I brought it up. Is there are two things with Joe Mazzulla that remind me of Brian Holman. With his philosophy is that Brian Holman talks a lot about just go out there and play hard, and we look up at the scoreboard and see if we won, whatever. Joe Mazzulla talks about that same thing too, that wins and losses are all lessons and that it's all about the process and that like if you just focus on yourself and like performing or whatever, that like the results take care of themselves. Like that sort of idea you hear from him a lot. And so I think that's very similar to Brian Holman in that regard. Um, and then the other one is that they're both like talk about their faith
Yeah.
like in the media. And so like they like that also like they just give off the same vibe in that regard. So that
Yeah, no, they certainly have
yeah,
those similarities. And I think I would love to play for both of them. Joe Mazzulla does scare me a little bit more than Brian Holman does, but I haven't talked to Joe Mazzulla. Maybe he'd be just as nice.
you never know.
Yeah.
I would love to meet him.
Yeah. Oh,
I
absolutely.
would love to just be able to pick his brain.
Yeah. I
Joe
don't know when
Mazzulla,
you
you
could.
want to hop on the pod?
Yeah, please. I don't know when you could make it happen because one of them is always playing. But if, especially for those cities that have four major sports, obviously I'd love to include the Cannons and like the Revs in this. If you could just have even just like a 1 hour like panel with all the head coaches of the major teams, like how sick
Oh,
would that be?
that would be awesome. Yeah, what would be the best time to do that? You would
Probably the
think
summer
like,
because baseball is the only, maybe the All-Star break of baseball if the manager isn't going.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, because uh, there's like the day after the All-Star game, I believe, is the only day where there's not a
Yeah.
game of
Any.
all four or where none of the four leagues play.
Right. Yeah.
Well, actually, and then technically election day too, though, because
Is
based,
that true?
oh no, hockey plays a lot.
Yeah. Because
Hockey
they're
probably
Canadian.
has election day. Because just like election day is always on a Tuesday, so you're not gonna have football. The
Yep.
World Series is over at that point, and the NBA specifically does not schedule games on election day so
Okay.
that people can go because they like want to push people to
That's
vote.
great.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good on
Yeah.
their part, but I don't think the NHL blacks out election day.
Yeah. Well,
So
we can look. It's next week. I would imagine, yeah, at least the Canadian teams are playing. Um,
yeah, so
all right. But
there,
why
there's
don't we oh, the Bruins actually play on election day in Canada
and yeah, of course.
against the Leafs.
So
Um, all right. So let's switch to the other part of what we'd planned today. I mean we always wind up going longer than we think, but this is the
yeah,
one we're getting for 2 weeks, so we're gonna enjoy it all. So we're gonna do we put on an Instagram story. like a Q&A or what should we talk about? Because the battery is not just me and Jack. Um,
It's
it's
all of
everyone who's a
us.
Cannons fan. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, if you this would be weird. If you see us in Boston, like say hi, especially like I wear my Cannons hat pretty often. Um, don't wear the jerseys as much, but like that would be so cool. And, like we just want more people to be Cannons fans. So um yeah, please like write in, DM us something. Like if you don't see our story post in time or it's in
Hmm.
podcast, like we would love to connect with all of you.
Yeah.
Um to get the watch parties going, to get attendance at homecoming weekend, at the playoffs, and whatever else is happening. Like we'll see what Champ Series is going to look like, but certainly if the Cannons are in the championship for that, we want to have a good event going to support the boys.
Definitely.
All right, so let's get into our write-ins. So we've got um, from at ice underscore period berg 21, we've just got Matt Kavanaugh. And then from at I'm just done 88, we've got our Pookie, which I assume refers to Pat Kavanaugh, and then the glorious Raleigh Wally. So um, regarding the Kavanaughs, like we're gonna see one of them play attack for the Cannons this summer. I feel pretty confident about that. Um, I think they'll both be at training camp. Um, who knows how much longer Matt Kavanaugh has left in his professional career. This is certainly not a season he was happy with. He'd be the first one to tell you that. Um, and then Pat
That's
Kavanaugh prefers playing midfield, maybe in the pros.
Yeah, we'll
Love to
see.
convince him to play lefty attack. Um, but we'll see. I'm God, training camp is so far. I
Yeah.
just want it to be here, and so I can talk about lacrosse and have answers to these questions already.
Yeah, the only thing really for me is I wonder if Matt just hangs it up that
Yeah,
he had a rough year. His brother is stepping up. Like, is this the passing of the
yeah,
torch, or does he sort of have this fire like I want to go out better than this and give it one last shot next year?
yeah. There's that. Like I think the competitiveness is there, and then I think also, he didn't get a full season with Pat because he was still carrying an injury for a lot of the year,
Yeah,
and I don't know if this will happen. I don't know if it's the right choice, but I think there's a chance at least that the Cannons draft Chris Kavanaugh, and I think he would want to play with both of his brothers at least 1 year.
true.
Yeah. So we will see. We will definitely talk about that closer to draft day. Once college lacrosse games have actually happened, college lacrosse games that count.
Yeah,
Um, because yeah, that is a I would say the biggest question mark for the Cannons going into 2025.
yeah,
And then regarding Ethan Brawl, I mean, the Cannons, hopefully you saw that post that they made about him a couple days ago, just singing his praises. So second most caused turnovers in the league in the last 2 years. So his rookie year and then this past year, 2024. Um, a ton of points, a ton of ground balls. We commented under that. Still not an LSM of the year. I think just given that Earhart won it every year he played, um, I think last year was the year to not. I was just looking up Earhart's stats for that year. Six caused turnovers to Ethan Rawls 20, but Earhart did have 8 points to Rawls one. I believe Rawl just had the one goal. Earhart 4 goals, 5 goals, sorry, including a two-pointer and two assists.
mm.
So I understand. I think, especially after how the awards went this last year, I think there's a bit
It's
of a
a popularity contest.
yeah, there's a
It
bit of a
doesn't
bias
matter.
towards the bigger names where travesty that Jeff Trainer was not nominated for SSDM of the year.
Don't even get
I,
me started.
yeah, I think the LSM of the year this year was a bit more of a toss-up. I know Carpenter had a lot of points early on. I think Rawl didn't have as remarkable of a season just because you don't expect an undrafted rookie to get 20 cost turnovers. Uh, but I think yeah, another season or two like this, and you got to give it to him.
Yeah.
Uh, and we don't want to make any promises, but I feel pretty optimistic we will be talking to Ethan Rawl at some point in the near future. So just a little soft tease there. And we will certainly want your feedback for that. All right. From at T underscore Crandall 4, what changes are going to be made for the playoffs, and is Will Manny going to see some action? Um,
I certainly hope so.
yeah, me too. I mean, just given the Cannons lefty attack struggles, um, I think now that I know he's not technically under contract because he won't meet that 30% rule. Another team could claim him, but why wouldn't you? You brought him in. He went to practices. He traveled with the team at least a little bit, I think, or at least he was at the Utah game because that's where he lives now. Like,
I think he was signed just before Connecticut
yeah,
weekend, and he
yep,
was left completely off the roster, but then he was on the protected roster every other weekend.
okay, yeah. So he was there.
So
He
he
was
was
part of
in
the team.
Cali, he was in Denver, he was in Utah,
Yeah.
he was in
Um,
Maryland.
I think it again, given that that's probably the Cannons' biggest position of need now, it would be, I don't want to call Brian Holman silly, but it would be silly for him not to, assuming he still has the juice, and we think he does, for him not to suit up.
Right.
Um, so what changes are going to be made for playoffs? If that refers to like the format that the PL has, um, I don't see that changing too much. I mean, I think the number of teams that make the playoffs is right. I don't necessarily want it to go down to four. Whether it's East versus West or, oh, I think what we had talked about is you just wanted,
Yeah, we've talked about this before that
yeah,
it should just be 3-3 in each conference with two versus three and one game to bye, and then winner of that plays one, and then East-West championship.
yeah. I hope they go towards that because that will, I mean, not that we need extra rivalries with the Atlas, Water Dogs, and Whipsnakes, um, but I think that will help the conferences feel like more of a thing.
I
Um,
think it helps with the viewers and the entertainment aspect because
yeah,
that's what other sports do. It makes sense to fans. So if you want to open up the game to people, make it easy for them to understand.
yeah,
Don't have this confusing like top team in each conference, but then we reseed the rest of them. Like that doesn't make sense. I understand their logic of it, like in terms of why the logical reason for doing it, but we want to bring in sports fans to see
right.
the game, make it easy on them. Doing it the way that the PLL is doing it is not making it easy for them.
No.
No
Um,
one understood how it was supposed to go.
no, even I think even us in the like in the episode after the final game of the regular season or before when we were talking about the possible Cannons playoff scenarios, like we were not 100% positive.
Exactly.
Whereas if it had been East versus West, we would have known like, okay, we win the Atlas lose, we're the one, and then
It's yeah,
or we would have known we're playing the Whip Snakes basically regardless.
right. It
It just who would get home field. I mean, also home field advantage doesn't really matter for the tour based model, but we can talk about that later. I'm sure Paul Rabel gets DM'd that question every single day of his life.
yeah.
So we don't need to pile on. Uh,
Yeah.
all right. So
Anyways,
from you want to do we'll do a couple more.
yeah, let's do one or two more.
All right. So from at OHG1315, what's our biggest takeaway from last season to make us excited for this coming season?
Talked a little bit about this off air. For me, the big thing is just that the Cannons seem to find so many different ways to win, and that just gives me a lot of hope going forward that, like just rambled about Brian Holman and Joe Mazzulla, you wins and losses or lessons and whatnot, that the the heartbreaking way that they lost at Gillette this year was another lesson for this team, and hopefully next year that leads to them being that much better and that
Yeah.
they can finally go all the way.
Yeah, I think the resiliency, especially the second half dominance. Now, you just mentioned that California game for homecoming was kind of the opposite of that, where they had a lead going into the fourth quarter and did not score and kind of blew it. But for every other game, I mean, we saw in Fairfield, we saw in San Diego against Denver, in Philly for homecoming, also in Philly against Philly. Just the way that they shut down other teams in the second half um,
Hmm.
was like the sign of a good team. That like when it gets crunch time, that is when they play their best. And the defense is only getting better with Jack Hilty, you know, hopefully returning from injury. That was a gut-wrenching blow when we found that out in training camp. He was going to be out for the year before the year had even started.
Yeah.
Um, and then that defense really had to come together on the fly against what it turns out was a really good Atlas team. Uh, if Keelty was
Yeah.
playing the game, like I obviously can't say the Cannons were going to win it, but the score would be a lot different. And I think if Apple's
Definitely.
coming back, if Young's coming back, Van Raphorst, Rawl, and then you throw in Jack Keelty to really be the captain of that defense, and everyone slides back into a role they're kind of more comfortable with. Um, so excited. And then I think as well with the development. We saw a lot of players, Asher continuing to be dominant, Holman continuing to be dominant, Campbell having a huge breakout. Drenner, I think I looked up, this is the most points he's had in a PLL season. Aslanian as well, couple twos, like getting to flex his range, his ability as a midfielder. Um, we didn't see Van Raphorst get a two last year. I know we saw what 4 games in a row with one, 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the season ended on a really bad note offensively, so I hesitate to sing its praises too much. But
Hmm.
I think we saw a lot of Cannons players fit their roles and fit the culture of the team really well.
Yeah.
To where whoever comes in, like Holman, that I think has been his best job as a coach is get the guys who are the right fit for the team,
Hmm.
not just as like attributes and stats, but as people, to where everyone
Right.
gels as a unit, where it's really 19 or 25 guys plus the coaching staff working towards that
Right.
kind of goal.
Yeah.
One more and we'll wrap it up.
Sure.
All right. Serious one or lighthearted one?
Let's go for a fun one.
Yeah. All right. So B Culpepper 90 asks, what's your favorite kind of pie?
I mean, it's got to be Boston cream,
Yeah.
Massachusetts,
Yeah.
Boston. Like,
So
how
I
how how could you say anything else? It's the official dessert of
yeah.
Massachusetts.
Is it the Boston cream pie or is it the Boston cream donut? Because that's
The official dessert of Massachusetts is the Boston cream pie. The
okay.
official donut of Massachusetts is the Boston cream donut.
All right.
Fun fact for you.
Yeah, gotta get
Another
it in.
fun fact for you. Uh, I'm sure you know Omni Parker House is where the Boston cream pie was
Hmm.
invented. I stayed there summer 2023 overnight, just for a night. This was before I moved to the city. I went to a concert at Fenway, and so I stayed there after the concert, and we got the original Boston cream pie. Oh, it smacks, dude. Let me tell you, they know how to make Boston cream pie. That shouldn't be a shocker,
No.
but they know what they're doing in that kitchen, dude. That was a good Boston cream pie.
Definitely have to get over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I am gonna go a different direction. I know it's boring, but I am gonna go with apple pie. It
It's so classic.
Yeah, like there's a reason. You get that, like just that warm cinnamony apple with
Oh,
some vanilla ice cream. Oh, why isn't it not Thanksgiving already?
I honestly, what's the difference between apple pie and apple crisp?
I think just the shape.
Okay, because like my mom makes apple crisp. She doesn't make apple pie. She makes apple crisp. That much I know. I know it's not apple pie, but dude, my mom's apple crisp.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, you said it. Thanksgiving, mom's apple crisp with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Absolutely. So,
after stuffing my
um,
face with turkey.
yep.
Oh, dude.
Watching the Cowboys lose.
Hell yeah. And the Lions win? What?
Maybe now, yeah. Well, let's see.
Oh,
No, we don't need to talk about Thanksgiving football, but yeah,
no.
I'm so excited for that. That's always a great day.
Yeah.
With extended family. Who my uncle was a high school football coach for a long time, so
No,
good
that's fun.
to pick his brain while we watch that is always a blast. And then the food.
Yeah.
top notch.
So
Thank
good.
you for that. Thank you for that fun note to end on. Be Culpepper 90. Um, yeah, we'll keep doing this. Again, we can't promise to get to every question depending on how many are sent in, but we will get to all the ones we can. And definitely, going forward, anytime we have a guest on, we will definitely want your guys' feedback or input
Absolutely.
on what we had talked to them about. Because Jack and I have our opinions, but we're only two perspectives, and this fan base is a lot bigger than the two of us. We definitely saw that at Harvard. We saw that at Gillette. Um, and we'll keep seeing it going forward. So, uh, I think let us know whose roster you think was the best. If these, I know we have the same guys on at some positions, but if they went head to head, who would win? Who do we leave off? Where should we put Kristaps Porzingis and Rafi Devers? Um, yeah, that was a fun one. I would love to see some of the other fan bases do that. I don't think we can do it for them just because we don't know their teams as well as they do, but uh, the Atlas, the Rough Riders, sorry, the Stampede. Yeah, that'd be fun to
Yeah.
see. Um, yeah, this is a fun one. It's good
Canine
to meet you,
crew.
Aidan and Jack.
Yeah.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll have a very special guest for you. Um, but until then, go Cannons.
Go Cannons. Boom.